Hi friends, practical advice on how not to get denied for your marriage green card. I'm Marina Shepelsky, the founder, the managing attorney for Shepelsky Law Group. We are an immigration law firm in New York City, helping people from all the 50 states legalize and get U.S. citizenship. So how do you avoid getting denied for immigration for that marriage green card? It all starts with the paperwork and the forms. First of all, the forms are super complex. I do not recommend using some paralegal or notario or doing this yourself. You will get confused and end up screwing up your case. I recommend using an attorney. If you're going to do this on your own, I recommend registering for the My USCIS account and making sure that you get all the notifications in there too. So this is a really good way not to miss any letters from them. Register on the uscis.gov site to open your personal My USCIS account. Forms are important. Making sure you enter everything correctly is super important. If you came with a visa, you were inspected, and it wasn't like a transit visa, like a C1 or D1. I'm talking about a real visa. You went to the embassy and you got a visa, like a B1, B2 tourist, or F1 student, or H1, or O1, or P1. A real visa, okay? Then you can get a green card in a marriage to a U.S. citizen. If you lied about something, if you had some crime, you might also need a waiver. Make sure you're watching for all these things when you're starting your marriage green card case. The questions in the forms all are trying to get you on lying, so be extra careful when answering them. If you ever worked in the United States without a work permit, put that in the form. If you're married to a U.S. citizen, it's forgiven anyway. If you overstayed your status at any time, say yes to that question to make sure you don't get denied for lying, okay? Because again, that's forgiven, but don't lie about it. If you've been arrested anytime, you've been driving and they arrested you and took fingerprints, anytime you had to do fingerprints, you must tell them about it, and you need to have a paper, an official document, how it ended. That's called a certificate of disposition. If you are in a marriage, you should know all the dates, list all the names and addresses, and be very careful with like the dates of moving into addresses, moving out. All that stuff is listed on the forms. Be very careful what you put down, because if you have income tax returns and IDs, those have your address on them. Make sure what you put in the forms matches your paperwork. Like if you're going to go to the marriage interview and bring bills to an address in Brooklyn, you better have that address in your paperwork, because if you don't, you're in trouble. Or when you come to the interview and you've moved and you have a new address, you should tell them right away that there's a new address. Not only that, you shouldn't have to wait for the interview. You should report your change of address while you're waiting for your interview. So you do your forms. We'll go back to the beginning. You prepare all the forms, you check them over, make sure you sign everything, you date, make sure the petitioner spouse, the U.S. citizen or the green card holder, has proper affidavit of support in there with proofs like income tax returns and IRS transcripts, pay stubs, a letter from work to show how much your petitioner earns. If you don't have enough, get a second person to be a co-sponsor. So you'll need 2 affidavits of support. Make sure that's all in there. Make sure the passport copies are included for the immigrant spouse. All the pages, even the cover, should be included. Anytime you entered with an I-94 and you have a white I-94 card, make a copy. If not, print out from the website where you can find I-94 records. Make sure you have your birth certificates with an English translation for both spouses. Make sure you have proof of the citizenship or green card status of the other spouse. Make sure that you have your marriage certificate in there. If it's not in English, make sure it has a translation. If you have kids together or separately, I recommend including those birth certificates and passport copies as well. Just make it clear it's for your children or your joint children or your spouse's children. Identify these children. I usually will put like a pink piece of paper and I'll print in big letters, joint child's birth certificate. Something like that you can do. When you file the forms, remember you had to register for My USCIS account. You'll receive the notifications with receipt numbers, track them online. You'll get a receipt number for every form. Track it online. Make sure you don't miss anything. Make sure you go to that biometrics appointment. Otherwise, your applications will be denied. Make sure you included all the things I mentioned. Otherwise, first they'll do requests for evidence. If you miss it in the mail, you'll get denied. Once you got your biometrics, in 9-10 months from filing, maybe 11 months, so 9 to 11 months from the date you filed your paperwork, you should get your work permit and sometimes advance parole, sometimes in one document called a combo card. That's usually 10-11 months from filing. And then shortly thereafter, maybe 2, 3, 4 months after that, you and your spouse will have the interview. How to deal with the interview, how to act at the interview. First of all, there are questions out there. Prepare for this interview. Make sure you know that the questions will focus on how you met, where you met, who lived where when you met, who did you live with, who do you live with now, names of each other's kids, siblings, parents. What does your spouse's parents, mom, dad do? What are their names? Where do they live? What about his or her brothers and sisters? Names, ages, where they live. What about the kids? Names, ages, where they live, what schools they go to. The same in reverse for the other spouse. How old is your spouse? When did you get married? How old were they when you got married? Where do they work? What is their title, like their job? What are their work hours? What kind of schedules does each of you have? What did you do this Sunday together? What did you do on New Year's together? How did you celebrate each other's birthdays? Where's your home located? Corner of what and what? They can check on Google Earth now, right in front of you. Do you have keys from the house? Do you have rings, engagement and wedding? Who bought them? How much were they? What was the proposal like? Who proposed to whom? Where? How much was the ring? Engagement and wedding? How much is your rent? How much money do you get per month? Do you have joint accounts? If yes, at what bank? You should have bank statements with you from that account. Where do you have your separate accounts? Do you have savings? Do you have retirement? Do you pay alimony? Do you pay child support? How much per month? How much per year? Name of the employer. These are the kinds of questions you need to know about each other, okay? A lot of it is in the forms that you filled out. So be familiar with each other's forms. That's a good beginning, all right? Be prepared to answer uncomfortable, personal, intimate questions. Stupid questions sometimes, like what is the color of your wife's underwear today? What is your wife's boss's name? What kind of transportation does she take to work? For example, does she drive to work? What kind of a car does she have? If she takes the train, the subway, whatever, metro to work, which line, how many stops, what stop does she get off? What is the home stop near you? What bus runs near you? What supermarket do you always go to? Who cooks in the family? What's your favorite dish? What's your wife's favorite dish? These are the things they will ask. Be prepared. Make sure you bring joint documents to the interview, meaning your leases in 2 names, utility bills, electric, gas in 2 names, your cell phone bills that have both numbers on them. Bring originals and copies of everything that happened during the marriage and even before in 2 names. If you have photos together with family, friends, just the 2 of you, put them in albums chronologically from earliest to latest. Be prepared, they will take 2 or 3 pictures from you where you're both looking at the camera like this, facing the camera. Make sure you print out your trip itineraries, your tickets if you sat next to each other on a plane. That's good proof of the marriage. Maybe you went on the trip somewhere, you went to a theater, a museum, or some cool diving trip, whatever. Bring papers. Papers and 2 names win your case. Pictures win your case. Be familiar with each other's routines. Be familiar with the forms, what you put in there, and then you will avoid having that complicated Stokes interview. And I will do a separate video about the Stokes interview where the 2 spouses are separated and the officer questions one spouse, then takes that spouse in the waiting area and then questions the other spouse. The questions are the same, the officer is the same, but sometimes the answers are different, and that's called discrepancies, the differences in the answers. I will talk about it in a separate video. Let's make sure to avoid these by following the tips from this video. Thank you for watching. Stick around for more really good content from an immigration attorney and an immigrant. I've been an immigrant for 33 years here, and I have a lot to tell you about America and the immigration world here. All right, so stick around. Please become a subscriber. Like this video. Find me on Instagram, Shepelsky Attorney. and on Facebook, Law Offices of Marina Shepelsky in New York City. Bye-bye. Have a blessed day.